now, right now. Right 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 now, right now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be breaking down why I believe that Bitcoin is on the verge of a large breakout to the upside. Less than 24 hours ago, Bitcoin attempted a break above the critical level at 28,500, and it actually rallied all the way up to nearly 29,000. And in today's episode, the chart is pushing higher once again. And so we're going to break down what all of that means for the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Jeb. I really appreciate all of you for being here. I've been doing technical analysis on the cryptocurrency markets for over 6 years now. And I've been making videos on this channel for 6 years in about 3 weeks. In about 3 weeks, this channel will be turning 6. That's insane. That's absolutely crazy. And just like a 6-year-old is just getting started in school, I feel like this channel is just getting started bringing you guys value. Looking forward to many more years of collaboration with you guys here in the cryptocurrency market so that we can achieve what I like to call financial sovereignty. If you don't know what financial sovereignty is, it is the concept of being in complete and total control over your wealth rather than your financial situation controlling you. I believe that through proper investment techniques and through proper education, you can become financially sovereign. And what that means to each one of you is going to be different. But what that will mean to every one of you is that you will not be enslaved to your money, but instead you will have dominion over your finances, that you will be able to use them for whatever purpose that you've been called to in your life. And if I can help you get there, then that means that I have done my job. Let's go ahead and read some chat. As I said, really appreciate everyone for tuning in today. We got a great show lined up for you. Paul Torelli in chat said, good morning. Grand Roofing Incorporated is in chat. Grand Roofing Incorporated is in chat. Said, good morning, everyone. Passive income with AI said, what's up? I'd really like to know what your strategy is on passive income with AI. There's a lot of people that are talking about that right now, but I'd love to hear what you are doing to generate passive income with AI. Tom McSaucy said, nope. Monero Dinero, that's a great name, is in chat. Herman Barbara is in chat. Thomas Post in chat. Blockchain Educated Interviews in chat. Joe Bollier, Philly Skills 1428. Grand Roofing said it's raining, so he gets to enjoy the show at his desk. Shout out to you, my friend. Rocket Metal News is in chat. Wreck the Bears is in chat. Griff is in chat. James Sachs, Fino, G-Kip, Bjorn, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Bjorn BCY, tell me if I got that right. I think that's how you pronounce the little O with the slash through it. Could be wrong. Am I missing anybody? Biker Scout 2012 said, will the next few months be the last chance to buy Bitcoin before the next halving? Well, technically, you've got about 5 months to buy Bitcoin before the next halving because the halving will be taking place in, I want to say late April. It changes a little bit. Let's see what the exact date is that is predicted right now. Investopedia doesn't have a date. As I said, it does change a little bit because it does have to do with the block time, and the block time is not exactly 10 minutes. Here's the Bitcoin countdown. You guys have seen me use this website before in a video that we did. Right now, it's predicting April 12th of 2024. We'll be seeing the Bitcoin halving. So if you want to know how long you have to buy Bitcoin before the halving, there's your number right there. That's the best approximation that we have. That's over on buybitcoinworldwide.com. Mr. Worldwide in chat. Matthew Jarvis in chat. Manze Thomas is in chat. The best passive income, it's Bitcoin. Love to hear it. Mike Lowry's in chat. I'm in chat just late. Shartoshi CRO is in chat. Ada's daddy is in chat. We've got Charles Hoskinson in chat, I guess. Good to see you again, Charles. Would love to do another interview with you. Oh, wait, that's probably not actually Charles Hoskinson. Good morning, all. God bless you. Know that you were loved. Amen. Love to hear it. We watched the movie I Can Only Imagine last night. If you guys haven't seen that movie, you should. Whether you're Christian or not, that movie will be a tearjerker. I guarantee it. If you've never seen that movie, I promise you will cry, but it will be like a therapeutic kind of cry. It's such a good movie. If you've never seen that movie, absolutely put that at the top of your list. One of the greatest movies I've ever watched in my life. I've watched it like 5 times. We watched it with a friend of ours. All right, so without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into CoinMarketCap. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $28,532. It is up 0.75% over the last 24 hours, up 7% over the last 7 days. And I want to point something out that is very significant here. Take a look at the last 7 days chart. I think that you guys can see that. I'm not totally sure, but over there on the last 7 days chart, look at how Bitcoin has moved over the last 7 days and look at how Ethereum has moved over the last 7 days. Bitcoin has rallied quite substantially, and Ethereum did as well, but Bitcoin managed to hold its rally, whereas ETH did not. And that is a very significant difference. Bitcoin has managed to go through a rally on its own and then be propelled even farther by the fake Bitcoin ETF news. If you've been living under a rock or you just so happen to not be paying attention on Monday, CoinTelegraph just gave their PR team, all of them, seizures is basically what happened. The CoinTelegraph intern got thrown out the window. It's a barrel of monkeys over there right now. They posted that the CoinTelegraph posted that the iShares Bitcoin Spot ETF had been approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Half an hour later, they added the comma reportedly, which is why I named the video that I did on that. Breaking: CoinTelegraph throws intern out a window, reportedly. Lol. And then about an hour after that, they took down the post entirely and said that it was a mistake. They released an internal investigation, and essentially a bunch of unprofessionalism was taking place. And so Bitcoin rallied for 8 minutes on that news, rallied $2,000. But the interesting thing is that it was a dress rehearsal for what will happen when the actual Bitcoin Spot ETF comes to fruition, and Bitcoin didn't lose the value that it gained, really. Bitcoin rallied to $30,000. It wasn't to stay there. It pulled back down to 28, but it actually managed to continue trading at an almost $2,000 premium from where it was trading before the whole debacle happened in the first place. Now, Bitcoin was already in a rally, so you could even potentially argue that this rally was stunted by what CoinTelegraph did, and maybe it would have gone even farther. But what we do know is that Bitcoin is in a strong uptrend right now. Actually, we're in a sideways market right now, but we had a strong uptrend leading into this, meaning that we are currently in a bull flag. Again, in contrast to Ethereum, where Ethereum rallied quite substantially at the same time that Bitcoin did, but it ended up going through a correction. I do wonder if Bitcoin would have gone through the same corrective movement that we're seeing out of Ethereum right now, Binance, and XRP over the last 3 to 4 days, if not for the CoinTelegraph debacle and the dress rehearsal that we inadvertently got to witness of Bitcoin practicing what it would do if we actually saw a Bitcoin Spot ETF being approved. It's possible that the exuberance from knowing how the market would react to an actual Bitcoin Spot ETF approval, it's possible that the exuberance from that propped up Bitcoin when it would have otherwise been going through a correction this week. And I'm very excited to tell you that the market is looking very bullish, and we're going to break down some of the reasons for that today. Now, the first thing that I also want to mention before we jump into it is a little bit of background on the Bitcoin ETF itself. I was watching an interview with Kathy Wood yesterday, and she seems to be very confident that Bitcoin Spot ETF is going to be approved at some point in the next 6 to 12 months. Now, here's the issue with that. Gary Gensler will be in power until at least the next presidential election, when he will more than likely be replaced by one of his peers on the commission. But there was an interesting development about 5 days ago that kind of flew under the radar. We didn't talk about it, and I want to mention it, even though it's about a 6-day-old news story, because it is important. When Grayscale won their case, and we can actually see what date that was because it impacted the chart quite substantially. When Grayscale won their case back here in late August, the SEC had an opportunity to appeal the decision. Essentially, the court, the district court in the District of Columbia, the District Court of District Columbia, ruled that the SEC was essentially acting completely unfair. They used certain words. I don't remember what the exact words were, but they were something to the effect of it. They were synonymous with SEC, your reasoning is nonsense. It was a little bit more political than that, but that was essentially what they said, that you've approved these other futures products. You've approved these other ETPs, and if you were going to treat one industry, one company, one asset class one way, then you need to be fair. And essentially the allegation that the court made against the SEC is that they were not being fair, and they could not disapprove the Grayscale ETF on the grounds that they had originally disapproved this Grayscale ETF on. So the SEC can obviously can reject the Grayscale ETF on other grounds, but they're not able to reject them on the same grounds that they originally rejected the Grayscale ETF for that went to court. Now, that court case took 2 years, and the SEC could theoretically just come up with 5 more reasons to reject the case, and then they take it to court and get it appealed, and it's a 2-year process, and 10 years from now it gets approved, but that's probably not what's going to occur. And part of the reason I say that is because Gary Gensler's Securities and Exchange Commission did not choose to appeal that decision. And the fact that they did not choose to appeal that decision is very, very interesting. Gary Gensler has commented on this, and he hasn't really given a very confident statement as to why. It makes sense to me, and what seems to be the case to me is that the Securities and Exchange Commission understands that they are simply not going to be able to battle the courts on rejecting all of these ETFs. It seems to be to me that the understanding on the commission has begun to move in a direction that a Bitcoin ETF is inevitable. Don't forget, Hester Pierce is on the commission, and she is a staunch advocate for Bitcoin ETFs. And so the kind of internal conversations that you can only imagine are happening at the Securities and Exchange Commission between the 5 commissioners, Gary Gensler and Hester Pierce being 2 of them, are quite pro-Bitcoin. At least there is a voice in the room for that. So it stands to reason that with Cathie Wood's assertion, with what Gary Gensler has not said but failed to say about the reasoning that they did not appeal that decision, and the fact that Gary Gensler is not going to be in power forever anyway, does lead me to believe that we'll be seeing a Bitcoin spot ETF within the next 2 years. Again, my best guess is a little bit more conservative than what Cathie Wood said. Cathie Wood believes that we're going to see one in the next 6 months, and she believes that hers will be the first. Of course, she's going to say that because she's got a vested interest in saying that. But I think conservatively, I think what's more likely to happen is that when the new president comes in, whoever that may be, you're going to get a new commissioner. Whoever that is almost certainly going to be more pro-Bitcoin ETF than Gary Gensler. You got to realize Gary Gensler is a politician, and he's kind of locked into his stance, because if he just goes full circle, says, no, actually, I think it's the greatest thing ever, and allows himself to be orange-pilled, then first of all of his banker friends are ticked off at him because he has specifically come out, and we can quote him as saying that the banks are worried about Bitcoin because they believe it's taking market share from them, and he's best friends with some of these people. We're talking about the heads of JP Morgan. We're talking about all kinds of different banks that he's worked with and worked for in the past. So my best assessment is we're going to see a Bitcoin ETF in the next 2 years, probably about 12 to 18 months from now, in the middle of the bull market. All right. Good deal. So let's go ahead and continue on here. Trump wants Hester Pierce, crypto mom, for SEC chairman. Epic. There you go. Well, that's pretty, that is, and look, guys, here's the deal. Donald Trump very well may win the next presidential election, even with everything going on, which should not discount the high possibility that he could. And if he does, according to what you're saying, I would want to check into that myself. But according to what you're saying, John Doe, I would not be surprised at all if he put Hester Pierce as the SEC chairman. Okay, so let's move into the charts and let's analyze them a little bit. We're going to move on over to this chart. It's a little bit cleaner. I want to give you a quick recap of the year so far. I'd like to give a yearly recap as we jump into our technicals so that we have the full TLDR. If this is your first time here, let me just go over some of the analysis that we are looking at right now. Bitcoin went through a major rally in the first 4 to 5 months of this year. That was the beginning phases of what I call the pre-halving phase of the bull market. There's 2 phases of every bull market. There is the pre-halving phase and the post-halving phase. If you look at the halving cycles, the halvings, right around here, we saw the last halving. There was a small rally that moved into the halving, and obviously there was a rally right here that moved into before the halving, and then there was the post-halving phase. The pre-halving phase of the bull market is typically much smaller than the post-halving phase of the bull market. Same thing occurred back over here during 2016. When we saw the halving, there was already some bullishness moving into that halving event. The post-halving phase was far more epic. The halving that we are going to be witnessing next year will be taking place right around here. Our best guess, that clock that we looked at, its best guess is April 12th. That's a good bit away, and just about anything could happen between then and now. But when that halving does come into play, a lot of things are going to come into confluence. First and foremost, the Federal Reserve will be in the process of changing gears. There have been 2 phases of this cycle, and they've been driven by the Federal Reserve. The first phase took place before, roughly, and this is about where we can denote the difference, roughly before the start of the Russo-Ukrainian War. That began on February 20th, just after Valentine's Day. we saw that the Bitcoin bull market was in full swing, and a major component of why that occurred was the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was printing money in excess of $5 trillion. And again, when you hear someone say the Fed is printing money, they're not literally running the money printer. That is the Treasury that does that. The Federal Reserve has the ability of creating money out of thin air in the equivalent of a bank account, using those funds to purchase different assets and therefore putting new supply into the economy. When you manipulate supply and demand, then you can change the value of whatever it is you're manipulating. If you're putting more supply of dollars into the currency, then you're going to bring down the overall price of the currency because you throw the supply and demand out of whack. The demand for the dollar remains the same. The supply goes up by $5 trillion, and naturally inflation ensues. There's $5 trillion worth of money put into the economy, and you can see that by coming to USC BBS, United States Central Bank balance sheet. And you can see during this first phase here, we saw a massive amount of printing, of quantitative easing, especially going all the way back to the very beginning of the pandemic when they originally put $3 trillion in 3 months. This, by the way, this period saw, depending on who you ask, between 10 and 33% reduction in gross domestic product in the United States. The more conservative number does not account for inflation. The more conservative number is just the nominal, and the more drastic number is more of the adjustment based on the inflation of the dollar. So we saw this first phase. Now we're in this second phase where the quantitative easing has turned into quantitative tightening. Quantitative tightening is when you see the amount of assets on the Treasury, the amount of assets in the Federal Reserve's balance sheet go down. They've begun that quantitative tightening in an attempt, to reverse some of the inflation that they caused based on the response to the pandemic. It does seem like old news right now because just about every 18 months we've had a new major geopolitical fire that has been the major talking point. You had the pandemic, you had the war in Ukraine, now you've got the war in Israel and versus Hamas. And those are almost mile markers that start to say, okay, we're entering a new era. There's this conflict in the Middle East. How is this going to boil over? Now nobody's paying hardly any attention to Russia and Ukraine. When Russia and Ukraine started, pretty much everybody stopped paying attention to pandemic and they started moving into paying attention to the war in Ukraine. Those different events have also largely acted as mile markers for the Fed's policy. And during the time of the war in Ukraine, we have seen that quantitative tightening continue. But right around now, and in the next 6 months or so, we're going to see that quantitative tightening likely slow down and potentially even stop. It is very possible that they bring quantitative tightening down to $7 trillion, which would be another $1 trillion worth of rolled off treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. But when that stops, and when you also see the EFFR, the effective federal funds rate, plateau, which we're likely to see very soon, you're going to move into this third epoch, this third phase. First phase, massive Bitcoin rallies as a result of the actions of the Fed. You can notice here, quantitative easing is going through the roof. Interest rates are slammed to the floor. This second epoch over here, quantitative tightening has ensued. Interest rates are skyrocketing. We're going to move into a phase at some point between now and the halving, more than likely, where we're going to see a pause on interest rates, and they're going to stay paused, and we're eventually going to see the flatlining of the quantitative tightening, and that's going to lead into our third epoch, which is neither as bullish as the first nor as bearish as the second, but is essentially moving in the sideways direction. And eventually, we will end up moving back into a phase 1-esque market, probably in 2025, when the Fed actually turns around and starts printing money again, or at least drops interest rates. They may leave the amount of money on the balance sheet, the amount of value on the balance sheet, roughly the same for 5-10 years. That is absolutely possible. They did that for the majority of the 2010s, from 2014 to 2018. The balance sheet stayed the same. It's possible they do the same thing, but with the interest rates dropping back down to zero, that would stimulate massive growth in the economy and massive investment in risk on, or at least perceived risk on assets such as the Bitcoin market. So that leads us to where we are right now. Bitcoin is, again, moving out of, and not so much Bitcoin, but the Fed is moving out of this tightening cycle of quantitative tightening and high interest rates in an effort to combat inflation. At least the way that CPI reports it, inflation has gotten under control. We know that that is complete and total, I need just a bleep over here. No, it's complete and total nonsense. My wife brought home $93 worth of groceries, and I looked around, I said, where'd it go? Where'd it go? What is this? There's like 8 things here. Like some bread. My wife brought home groceries, and she said, you know, I wasn't able to get it. Not that we weren't able to, but we could have. But I didn't get any butter because it was $13 for 4 sticks of butter. You can get it for $2 or $3 at Walmart, but we had to go down the street real quick to Hitchcock's. Not to just slam dunk on Hitchcock's, but golly, you want to talk about inflation, go to Hitchcock's. My point being, inflation we know is not really doing very well, but nominally, at least as far as what BLS is reporting through CPI, it has come down. So again, we're moving into this season. We're in the next 6, 12, 18 months. We don't know exactly when, but at some point we know the Fed is going to calm things down a little bit. All right, so how does that impact Bitcoin, and how does that lead us into the topic at hand today? Well, I'm going to go ahead and read chat for just a second, and then we're going to jump into why I believe Bitcoin is on the verge of a massive breakout. And by the way, that title has 2 different meanings. Number one, I believe we're on the verge of a massive breakout in the long run. I believe that we're going to see a major breakout on Bitcoin moving through 2024 and 2025. That will be the next bull market. But at the same time, I believe that we're going to see a very large breakout on Bitcoin within the next week or two to the upside. At least that's what Bitcoin is showing us. And then we are going to talk about that today. If you're enjoying today's stream, I want you to do a couple of things. First and foremost, hit that like button because it helps to get this video, this stream out to more people that might be interested in this content. If you're enjoying today's content and you would like to see more of it, hit that subscribe button. We are posting, I'm doing my very best anyway to do a stream, a video, and a short, all 3 every single weekday. So if you're interested in learning more about the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market and joining us on our journey towards that destination of financial sovereignty, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and check the link to join our Discord server as well. Crypto Mini Bike is in chat. Said, I'm late. Good morning, everyone. It's okay, Crypto Mini Bike. I know it's a long commute from that awesome cabin you're building. So I understand. I get it. I understand. And the mini bike, what does the mini bike top out at? I got to know. I'm surprised I've never asked this. What mini bike is it? I've got to know. I love mini bikes. I love little Groms. Little Honda 125cc. They make some beautiful motorcycles. I have a Honda CBR 300R, and it's a beautiful motorcycle as well. It's really fun. You know, we were just a little story for you, something technical. My son turned 3, and he's got this little tricycle, that little radio flyer tricycle, and he wants to race motorcycles. So we both lined up in the road out in our neighborhood, and I had my wife like grab something and then, you know, do 1, 2, 3, and I was on the motorcycle and he was on the tricycle, and I just took off, you know,
informational
not
content
speeding or anything really, but just pedaling really hard trying to catch up, and he really enjoyed that. So motorcycles are a lot of fun. So, goodness gracious, what I was saying. Okay, give me a second. Let me see what I'm gonna do about that. Yep, cool. I think I know what I'm gonna do. I'm tired of that happening. That's the second day that's happened. Joining me today, right now, and I'm leaving. Nate said, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to hook up a second monitor to have my view feed up as soon as I get off of here, so that doesn't happen anymore, so I can see it. I do apologize for that. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump straight onto the chart and continue moving along here. Bitcoin is currently in an uptrend and has been doing relatively well. We're sitting at 28,600. Bitcoin has been rallying over the last over the last 12 to 24 hours. Ever since midnight last night, Bitcoin has been moving to the upside quite aggressively. We've moved $400 in the last 11 hours. Very exciting to see that. As I said, Bitcoin is definitely in a consolidation pattern in a trading channel right here that we have moved bullish into. Now, of course, we should pay somewhat attention to this wick here because that wick is very indicative of where Bitcoin could go based on if a spot Bitcoin ETF were to be approved, and also shows that there's enough dry powder in the market right now to go to $30,000 if we have the right catalyst. But the exciting thing that we want to talk about here is the bull flag. The bull flag right here would be predicting about a $30,100 Bitcoin, which is where we went to at 9 a.m. on October the 16th, which was this Monday. There is enough dry powder on the sidelines for us to go to that level, and that is very exciting indeed. If we look at the hourly chart, we have bullish MACD coming into place, which occurred below the 0 level. We were able to reset the MACD so far to the downside that it went below the 0 level. We got a buy signal, not a buy signal, but we got a bullish cross, and now we've converged bullish, and now we're moving to the upside. RSI likewise has broken above the 14 interval moving average. started moving to the upside. It's currently at 63. That shows that we have quite a lot of exuberance on Bitcoin. If we look at the volume, we can see that there is some heightened volume coming in right now. If we just ignore that candle back there with the just massive amount of buy volume that we saw on that wick, then we can see what we're looking at here. That volume that is coming in right now is higher than it has been. So it does look like, anyway, that we're gearing up for something in the next several hours. And we want to be paying very close attention to the market right now because there is every possibility that Bitcoin could go through a rally relatively soon. Now, one of the things that I also want to point out has to do with the Fibonacci retracement. If you drag Fibonacci from the top up here down, you can see that we have a golden pocket right here. Bitcoin is rallying up to this golden pocket at 61.8 to 65%. This golden pocket, in my opinion, constitutes the zone of resistance that we need to break through to be able to go into a major rally. This is our resistance right here, right now, and it's not very far above us. It sounded like I was saying the intro to Modern Marvels right here, right now. Who's ever seen that show? Somehow that show is still on. Bitcoin is in a rally right now, and even down on the 5-minute chart, we can see that that is pretty aggressive, and I do believe that there is tension building in the market that could be released into a major rally relatively soon. Now, a couple of things I also want to mention have to do with the moving averages. The 20 exponential moving average, we were originally above the 20 exponential moving average. Then we were below the 20 exponential moving average. Now we have rallied above the 20 exponential moving average again. Make sure everything is good here. I believe I fixed everything. Just going to make sure. Okay. Looks like we're good. Nate said, just kidding. Forgot what you said. And I'm leaving. Oh, you said just kidding. All right. Well, welcome back. I appreciate that. So, yes, and thank you for that, guys. Let's keep it clean in chat. All right. So, Bitcoin at the very moment is rallying up to that local level of resistance. And I do believe that we have a strong opportunity to break through it relatively soon. If we look at Lux Algo here, also, this is part of the excitement. And this is part of the reason that I wanted to bring you this stream today. There is a buy signal on Lux Algo that is showing up right now. That buy signal is very significant. And I do believe that even during the course of this stream, we're going to see a breakout. And that's very interesting that we should be saying that right now, because at the moment that I'm saying this, Bitcoin is moving into a breakout movement. Going to remove the Fibonacci here to make things a little bit simpler for us, but this buy signal should not be ignored. If you guys have Lux Algo, let me hear you say it in chat. If you don't have Lux Algo, you should absolutely get it using coupon code JEB30, JEBB30 for 30% off at checkout, because of calling this movement. If you are in your trading window right now, it is an opportunity to potentially enter a trade. You're going to want to make sure that you have volume confirmation. Let's go ahead and make sure that we can see that. We're going to do our little horse race announcement here because the market is moving live. We have seen that Bitcoin has not yet updated with a new take profit, but that take profit is likely going to be up here around 28.9. We do have historical precedence for Bitcoin rallying all the way up to 28.980 without the help and the aid of the CoinTelegraph fake news. So it is very possible that if we were able to break above that level, which would also be a break above that golden pocket there on Fibonacci, that we could see a rally all the way up to $30,000. If you are the kind to take some risks, it's not a terrible idea to try and catch a movement here if we were to break above 28.9 or about 29,000 flat. I would give it a little bit more time, but if you were to enter into a trade right now, I don't think you would be making an unwise decision. But you may first want to at least let Bitcoin to break. You may first at least want to let Bitcoin break above 28.8 because that is the top of the Fibonacci zone, and I do believe that's probably the zone that the traders are looking at right now, which are the people that are actually moving the market. But if you do enter a trade right now, and you enter it a little bit early, so long as you have a very conservative stop loss, I do believe that you're going to be in good position to take advantage of it. RSI is moving up to 70. Again, remember, RSI being at 70 does not indicate that the market is actually necessarily overbought, although it can be read that way. The reason that we read RSI at 70, the thing that we read from RSI being at 70 is that the bulls are strong. The MACD has crossed bullish above the zero level again about 6 to 7 hours ago. Things are looking very bullish right now. We're above the 20 EMA. We've got confirmed buy signal from Lux Algo. I call this the golden confirmation here. It's the buy signal confirmed by trend catcher. We see both of them coming into play on the exact same candlestick. And when that occurs, that's normally very bullish. We've also got a large green volume candlestick And so I'm quite excited about where the market is going to move next. We will keep a very close eye on that market as we are live here. I really appreciate all of you for tuning in and watching live, because a breakout very well may be coming very, very short. Remember when we all focused on Plan B, stock to flow? Yeah, the stock to flow model was something that I always told you guys was eventually going to become untenable to maintain. And part of the reason for that is because we just, being at $100,000 as its baseline here in this market is, I don't believe, possible. But I would not be at all surprised to see Bitcoin rallying all the way up to $100,000 during the next bull market. It's very possible that we'll just be one halving cycle behind. That is absolutely a possibility. Fix my collar here. All right. War, recession, debt bubble, housing crisis. Jeb, give me a break, Eric Leon said. It depends on how each of those things take place as to whether or not they actually lead to bearishness in the market or not. We do have a massive amount of debt. That is true. We do have to some degree a housing crisis, not as bad as we've seen in past. Recession, I think we are going to have some rolling recessions over the next decade as we continue to feel the impacts of the decisions that were made in 2020 and 2021. We shut down the entire economy, and then we were surprised that we dropped GDP by 33% in a quarter. And you don't just recover from that. It's a little bit like, I don't know, that's a little bit like getting a terminal disease and you get cured from it. You're probably still going to have some aftershocks for a while as you try and heal from that, even if you are cured from it. War, absolutely, that does lead to instability. Technician Jep said, hope you're having a nice morning, Jeb. I am. Thank you so much. If you believe in Bitcoin, you long, be the bull. There are times that you believe in Bitcoin and you short, because we want to be opportunistic in our trading. Yeah, and Eric Leon, it didn't. Yeah. Let's see. Good deal. Fake breakout? At the moment it is. Hasn't broken out for sure yet. Thomas Post is in chat. Is that dead and gone, Hart? Yes. Stock to flow is not dead and gone, but I said it's got to have been 4 years. The stock to flow was always going to be a model that could not be sustained forever, and that prediction has absolutely come true. We're currently trading at 28K. Stock to flow would be predicting $115,000 right now. I think Plan B is a very intelligent guy, and I don't think there's anything about this model that is. I don't think he made a mistake in making the model. I just think that we need to understand that the market is going to have a difficult time maintaining a 10x every 4 years. It's just not going to happen. All right, so we're going to watch Bitcoin closely here, but the breakout has not occurred yet. And remember, there are plenty of times that Bitcoin has gone into little breakouts right here, and it has failed. So we want to wait for a little bit more confirmation. And part of the way that we would get that confirmation is by getting a higher high above this high. If you want to enter into a swing trade and say, okay, I'm just going to hold it for 2 weeks, then fine. That may be a good option. Because we've talked about all the things that are bullish on Bitcoin right now. You've got the bull flag. You've got the buy signal on Lux Algo. You've got the daily chart buy signal on Lux Algo. You've got the weekly chart fact that we are holding above the moving average ribbon that we talked about yesterday. And in fact, if we look at this, we've even bounced above the 150 and on the weekly chart. Now, this is something interesting. We'll talk about this in future content because this is longer term bullish factors. We're looking at a buy signal. I'm sorry, not a buy signal, a golden cross on the MACD above the 0 level for the first time since 2021. It's been over 2 years. RSI is sitting above 50, indicating the bulls are in a good bit of strength. And if we do continue to see movement here to the upside, then we have confirmed a breakout above this downtrend on weekly chart RSI. Now, the week is not closed yet, and we're up here this 1 week, but many things are starting to shape up to look very bullish on the weekly chart. It really does start to look that we're getting through some of the bearishness that we saw on the weekly chart. We, of course, saw that there was bearish MACD divergence. Bearish RSI divergence here. Higher highs on the chart, lower highs on the RSI. Bitcoin naturally went through a correction as a result of that. Technical analysis typically works. We've gone through that correction now, and that's gone. Now what we're witnessing is instead of having bearish RSI divergence to contend with based on these two highs on price and on RSI, we've actually got bullish RSI with these two highs that are higher lows here, and then the lower lows that are down here on the RSI. So instead of contending with bearish RSI, we're actually contending with bullish RSI. Furthermore, on the weekly chart, so long as we close this weekly chart candle above 28, which I think is highly likely, we are seeing a bullish engulfing candlestick formation, the likes of which we have seen recently. And typically, whenever we see one of those, it ends up being quite bullish. So we shall see how it will play out. But I do believe that Bitcoin's moving in a solid direction. And I do believe also that the shorter term time frame is going to reflect that longer term grand strategy that Bitcoin is currently playing. And I also believe that all of that will tie into the even longer term strategy that we look at if we zoom out over the next year and a half of Bitcoin resuming a bull market. All right. Let's see. Appreciate the time you spend and your take on market behaviors. Dollar cost average is the way, IMO, for the average investor. Will ADA break out with Bitcoin? So, here's the predicament with ADA. ADA is great technology. But there's a lot of great technology that doesn't get bought because it cannot be commercialized. The question of whether Cardano will perform very well in the next bull market is whether or not the Cardano team and the Cardano community can commercialize it in a way that brings value to the economy. And I do believe that that can be done. I don't believe that's outside of the realm of possibility, and I would be willing to bet on Charles Hoskinson. However, as with all things in markets, it has to be proven. You have to prove these things. Very important to prove them. And until it's proven, we don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea to get some Cardano down here at a quarter. But if you're doing that, I would at this point consider it a moon bag that you may lose. Now, by the way, a little bit of an update. We just closed the hourly candlestick and it looks very green. Very, very nice green candlestick on the hourly close. Would not be at all surprised to see more bullish movement coming in the next few minutes as a result of that hourly candlestick close. That was one of the highest green candle closes that we've seen in a very long time. Seconded only to this high that we set over here yesterday at midnight. Most people are asleep at midnight. It's a little bit harder to move the market at midnight in the United States. Right now it's 11 a.m. Everyone that is day trading Bitcoin is watching the market right now. And the stock market is open as well. A couple of things to note here while we're going. Dixie's in a correction and has been for a couple of weeks. So that's bullish. And even over the last few hours, it's in a correction. There's very, very, very astute convergence between the Dixie and the Bitcoin market, and the same thing between the SPY. So they're kind of balancing each other out right now because the SPY is also dropping at the same time that the Dixie's dropping. But I did just want to mention that. Now, we're seeing Bitcoin move into a rally here. And this is one of those areas where you've got to have what I call gut feeling. There is a certain intuition, a certain instinct that you develop after you've been looking at these markets for so long. And it tells you what's going to happen. It's not always going to be right, but when it's wrong, that's how you train that intuition. It's how you train that instinct. And I do have an intuition that Bitcoin's about to break bullish here. It seems pretty obvious, but that is my intuition. If you were going to enter a trade, you probably should have done it a little while ago, or you could be considering to do it now. If you want to be more conservative, then you could wait for a breakout above our local high here and then trade some kind of breakout movement up to $30,000. That would be the more conservative movement. You could technically enter here, but you would be taking the more risky movement. All right, let's read some chat for a second. Chevron, ConocoPhillips stock nearing all-time high. Fill your tank. Yeah, so Chevron just recently bought ConocoPhillips for $60 billion. If you don't know who ConocoPhillips is, they are a shale oil and gas company that operates in the Permian Basin out west. You can correct me if I have any of that information wrong. I'm not an oil market analyst, but Chevron did recently just buy ConocoPhillips again, like I said, for $60 billion. Chevron, ExxonMobil, many of the companies in the United States are working very hard. Let's go ahead and pause that thought for a second as Bitcoin is breaking out here. Bitcoin is moving up to 28,787. As I said, it would not have been a bad idea to enter a trade a little while ago, but again, that is a more risky trade. Now we're moving into an era where it may become more conservative and not a bad idea to enter that trade, even if you were trying to take a little bit less risk. Now, what I was saying on ConocoPhillips has a large swath of mineral rights in the western basin of the United States for oil and gas drilling, and they're also one of the companies that revolutionized horizontal shale fracking in the United States. Chevron and ExxonMobil in particular, British Petroleum as well, but especially those two companies, are attempting to shore up their mineral rights and their ability to actually access that oil and gas in the United States, as you are seeing instability all over the Middle East. all over the Russian sphere. Russia was one of the largest exporters of oil and gas in the entire world. They are now basically offline, other than selling oil and gas at a price cap of $60 a barrel to Europe. So they're not able to export what they were exporting before, and their oil and gas infrastructure is in dire need of update because it's been almost 2 years now since the beginning of the war, and they are not getting anything in from the West. So Russia is in the slow path of going offline from an oil and gas standpoint. I'll talk while we look at the chart. And if I need to say something on the chart, I'll say something on the chart. As far as the Middle East having erupted into war between Israel and Gaza in the largest war that you have pretty much ever seen in Israel, at least in the last 100 years, you're looking at a conflict that is arguably larger than the Yom Kippur War, larger than the Six-Day War, and larger than the war for the independence of Israel in 1948 and 49. This is one of the largest conflicts that we've witnessed, largest losses of life that we've witnessed, largest humanitarian crises that we've witnessed in Israel and Palestine to date. That does threaten to bring Saudi Arabia into the mix, and Saudi Arabia and Iran are both the largest states that border the Persian Gulf, which is where a quarter of global crude moves out of. There is a large amount of instability in the region, and that instability is only going to continue to get worse as Saudi Arabia was on the path to normalizing relations with Israel. That has now been put on pause for a time, and Iran seems to be supporting Hamas. Now, we don't know for sure that Iran was the one that ordered or even funded the attack by Hamas, but we do know that they are very friendly coworkers, even if they don't agree on everything religiously. Bitcoin is breaking above 28.8 right now, and that is very exciting news. Again, like I said, gave you a trade signal a little while ago. You would be in profit from that. I told you right around the time that we were at 28.7, might not be a bad time to enter a trade. We're up 0.35% from there. 5x leverage, that's 1.5%. I do believe at this point that we're going to be able to have a little bit more movement to the upside. That's why I named the stream this morning that we're going to see that we're on the verge of a major breakout. This is the breakout I was telling you about would probably occur when I made that thumbnail an hour and a half ago. So we're going to continue to watch this for another at least 5-10 minutes or so, then we'll wrap it out. But again, as far as Chevron buying ConocoPhillips, Chevron and ExxonMobil realize that there is regional instability in the Russian sphere, which is one of the largest exporters of oil and gas, makes up about 20 to 25% of exports. That was before the war. You've got the Persian Gulf, which has finally started to find some semblance of peace, especially after the United States have been moving out of the Middle East, but that has been torpedoed now because there's very likely going to be a massive migrant crisis from Gaza moving into Egypt, which could lead to instability in Egypt and, frankly, even the collapse of the Egyptian state. You could see a massive humanitarian crisis that would lead to everybody in the region hating Israel's guts and declaring war on them, and you could see another example of the war for the liberation of Egypt, where 5 different nations attacked them. You could very easily see Hezbollah launch rockets and even an incursion across the northern Israeli border, which would likely trigger a United States response, so long as Biden is a man of his word, and that is obviously a big question mark. But if he is, he did threaten Hezbollah to keep to themselves, or else he would use the 2 nuclear aircraft carriers stationed in the region to destroy them. That would bring the United States back into armed conflict in a region that we are trying to reduce our commitments in. At the same time, if Saudi Arabia goes forward with the normalization agreement with Israel, then you could see Saudi Arabia and Iran's small clashes escalate into full-blown war, and the strait right between Israel and Saudi Arabia, the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, again, process about a quarter of global traffic for oil. So the oil and gas companies right now are frantically scrambling to get production back online in the United States. We also have another oil and gas exporter, mainly an oil exporter, in Venezuela. Venezuela is on the brink of complete and total civilizational collapse. They've already essentially gone through societal collapse, but they're on the brink of complete and total civilizational collapse. They're going to basically fall apart like it's post-apocalyptic. And so we don't have oil and gas exports coming from them. So when you run into all of those geopolitical nightmares at the exact same time, it shouldn't be a surprise that ConocoPhillips is being bought by Chevron, that ExxonMobil is moving into expanding in the United States. We are in the most energy independent position that we have been in arguably over 50 years, probably arguably over 60 or 70 years, and that is a trend that will likely continue through the 2010s. We're not going to see the same kind of oil and gas onboarding as we have seen in the last decade with the advent of shale, but we're now moving into an era where the majority of the technological innovations that are necessary to do horizontal drilling in shale rock has occurred, and now you're seeing the super major oil producers, again, Chevron, ExxonMobil, and British Petroleum, they are starting to implement those techniques and bring online a massive amount of oil production stateside, which is leading the United States partially. This is one of the reasons that the United States is moving in this direction, but it's part of the reason that you're seeing Bitcoin move into more of a isolationist phase. We think back to the 1910s and the 1900s, when you had this policy that the United States was in the New World and the Old World could mind its own business, and we're going to do our own thing. Isolationism. If you've been through a history class, you will have learned about this. We're moving back into some degree of American isolationism. We are funding the Ukrainians as a proxy war against the Russians because the Ukrainians have the potential to completely cripple the Russian state. And we're going to be supporting the Israelis because we want to maintain global stability in the region. And the United States believes at this time that supporting Israel's conflict against Hamas is the best way to do that. All right. Gensler will be approving Bitcoin ETF very soon, Jerome says. He has too many losses and he wants to redirect the negative attention on him because of his association with FTX. Yeah, Gensler. So Gensler is like a rabid dog backed into a corner right now when it comes to the ETF. The issue with the ETF is that he has backed himself into a corner with his own rhetoric. He just can't roll all of that back right now without losing a huge amount of support. He can. Larry Fink did it. Larry Fink got orange pilled. He was so staunchly against Bitcoin at one point, and now when he realizes there's money to be made, all of a sudden he's the biggest fanboy of Bitcoin. Gary Gensler has tarnished his reputation, and if he rolls it back to be a supporter of Bitcoin, it'd be egg on his face, and I'm not sure that he wants that. So he could, but I'm not sure about that. Gensler and Jamie Dimon working on Chase Coin, probably. Maybe. I have no idea. All right, guys. John Doe said, Jeb, you know you're investing. Well, thank you. Feeling bullish on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is going to perform very well. Looking at the chart here, you've still got Bitcoin breaking through 28,800. Quite excited about this movement. I do believe that there is more potential here. I don't think we're done. But to really get a solid movement to the upside, we're going to need to break through 29. That is our level that we touched recently. Tell me if you guys would like to hear more on the geopolitical side of things. I understand that this is a cryptocurrency channel, but I am of the firm belief that geopolitics has a huge bearing on the prices of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I also believe it has a huge implication on your life. Geopolitics is one of the major things that actually impacts your day-to-day life. It was a geopolitical event in the pandemic. It was a geopolitical event in the Russian-Ukrainian war. It's a geopolitical event in the war between Israel and Hamas that has had the largest impact on your day-to-day life of anything outside of what's going on in your local government. And that's why I focus on it so much. I can't talk on your local government because you guys live in 7,000 municipalities all over the world, but I can speak on geopolitics because the events that are taking place in the world have a real impact on you. All right, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that like button. And stay tuned because we've got more coverage coming today. Quick comment. In about an hour, looks like Jerome Powell is going to be going live, doing a speech on the economic outlook. I very well may make a video on that when that comes, and that would be what Xenodermis. By the way, good to see you, Xenodermis. It's been a while. Any ideas on Jerome Powell's stance today? If he's made a stance so far today, I'm not aware of it, so you can tell me what that is. But I do know that he'll be speaking in about 45 minutes, so we will talk on that. If I'm missing something, feel free to let me know. Now, I'm going to move into a time of kind of questions and answers. You guys are welcome to ask me any questions on everything that we've just spoken about, or to point me in a certain direction of talking about a certain subject if you would like. And then we will wrap it out pretty soon here. Jib, are you planning on a 100K party / get-together? Would love to meet you in person. I would love to do something like that. I'll be totally honest, guys. I'm stretched pretty thin right now because I'm trying to do a lot of things all at once, and it is very difficult to manage. But I would love to do something like that. I love meeting you guys in person. It is honestly one of my favorite things to do here with what I get to do as a living. I love running into you guys in public, and it's so much fun. It is so much fun. So quick recap on the Bitcoin TA. The reasons why I believe Bitcoin is going to go into an uptrend. We've got the moving average ribbon that we like is moving bullish. It's even dog-legging up. We've got bullish MACD. RSI is crossed above the 14 interval, rallying up to 70. We've got the Lux Algo buy signal that came in during the last hour, confirmed. And now that we've moved into a new hour, we see the take profit is up here. And with that in mind, it might not be a bad idea to enter a trade now and then let that trade move us to the upside there. Would be pretty easy to find a stop loss because 28,600 is right below us. Yeah, now might not be a bad time to enter a trade. You could easily enter into a trade something like this. A current entry, stop loss right here, and maybe even a little bit more conservative. Something to that effect. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because, again, I prefer for you guys to come up with the trade setups yourselves based on what I've taught you. Part of the reason that I'm a little bit hesitant of saying to enter a trade right now is because we are fully above the Bollinger Bands. We are 100% above the Bollinger Bands. We opened above the Bollinger Bands. The time to be entering a trade, I think, would have been probably about an hour ago, which is when we started talking about this. But there is still opportunity. We're also above the 20 exponential moving average, which is always good. You can see that right there. We bounced off of that. I do believe we're going to see more uptrending coming over the next couple of days. And I would not be at all surprised to see us knocking on 30K's door any day now. George is back online, you said. Let's see if that's true. Let's see. Aha! He's back. Shout out to George. You guys have not seen. It looks like he is back on air. Looks like he just went live about an hour ago. So shout out to George. Channel's back. Told you guys it would be. Cool. Good to see. All right, guys. Before I go, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell, sign up for the Discord server, and also make sure to look into Lux Algo. Lux Algo predicted the movement that we're talking about today. The entire reason, not the entire reason, but the main thing that tipped me off that we're about to go into a rally that we have now gone into and you've watched over the last hour that we've been live here was none other than Lux Algo. So make sure that you go ahead and sign up for Lux Algo using coupon code JEB30, JEBB30 for 30% off at checkout. I've got some exciting content with Lux Algo that I want to work with. I was just talking with Sean yesterday about it. I would love to bring you guys some content on Lux Algo. So make sure, if you've not already signed up for it, that you do that and stay tuned because we've got more stuff coming in the future on that. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling. Got a real good feeling.